Local hospital and university leaders are speaking out against potential federal funding cuts that they say put jobs and biomedical research on the line.
As we reported earlier this week, a federal judge in Boston blocked the Trump administration's plan to impose cuts on federal biomedical research. 12 News reporter Kate Wilkinson has what local research leaders are saying. Kate?
The Trump administration says the federal government spent too much money on overhead costs, but local research leaders came together today to say these cuts would lead to layoffs.
In 2023, I spoke with URI neuroscience professor Jamie Ross. Her research found microplastics are able to reach what's known as the blood-brain barrier.
And its function is to keep bad things out, so viruses, bacteria, and it should be selective for things like this.
But here it is. Working with mice, she said research suggests this kind of exposure can lead to neurological issues like Alzheimer's. Right. But at a news conference today, URI pharmacy dean Carrie LaPlante says this research and other projects are at risk if federal funding is paused.
URI researchers would lose $4.8 million annual funds that support our staff, maintain these laboratories, and drive breakthroughs.
Last week, the Trump administration announced plans to put a cap on these types of funds, known as indirect costs, at 15%. According to URI's website, its indirect cost rate is as high as 57.5%. According to the Trump administration, the 15% rate would be in line with what private research groups offer, writing, "The indirect cost rate is intended to cover overhead, and the federal government has been paying an exorbitantly high rate." But LaPlante says that cap would lead to layoffs at URI, and not having enough support staff would lead to a pause in research.
I need to have a certain number of people in my lab to make sure it is safe when the students come in, who are training the students on how to do this research from the beginning to the end, to autoclaving, to bringing in those samples. For me, it's about safety.
A federal judge did block the Trump administration's indirect cost cap on Monday after Brown University and others filed a lawsuit. A hearing on the issue is scheduled for next Friday. Live in the studio, Kate Wilkinson, 12 News.